Good evening, everyone, and welcome along to our Foróige Career Coaching Clinic webinar focusing on careers in business management. This career coaching webinar is an initiative created by Foróige to provide young people with an opportunity to learn about careers and professions that they may be considering. Foróige is a leading youth organisation, engaging 1 in 10 young people across Ireland. Foróige encourages young people to take responsibility for themselves and to be part of shaping the world around them. You can get involved through your local club, or you can avail of one of the many programs Foróige offers, like Leadership, Nifty, and Be Healthy, Be Happy. If you would like to find out more, please visit www.foróige.ie. With us tonight are our panelists, Ruth Mcgarry Quinn, Angela Brady, and Shona Dubois. This evening's webinar will be a mixture of speakers and interviews. These career webinars are designed to give young people an insight into professions and to inform young people's choices. You will still need to consult with your career guidance about specific questions around courses for the CAO system. Throughout the webinar, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. You will notice along the bottom of your screen, there is a Q&A feature. We strongly encourage all attendees to use this function and to get involved. At the end of the webinar, we will be running an evaluation poll. It will take less than a minute, and we would really appreciate everyone taking the time to complete it. So, first up tonight, we will have Ruth Mcgarry Quinn, a chocolatier and owner of Tork Cafe Food Hall in Longford Town. Ruth has a diploma in corporate business and a diploma in marketing and legislation. Ruth is also an NPD with Board Bia and a business mentor with the local enterprise office. Ruth, you're very welcome tonight, and thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Jim. It's great to be taking part in this seminar this evening.
Brilliant. Ruth, I know we're all dying to get to the chocolatier part of your business. I think I can speak for everyone on the panel tonight. But Ruth, I'm going to bring you right back to school. Can you tell us a bit about your journey to school and what you chose to go on?
Sure. A long way from being a chocolatier. But I started off as a nurse. Following my general nursing, I specialised in renal nursing, which is people with that are on hemodialysis. So at the time when I qualified, there was no jobs in Ireland, so I headed to the States, and I worked in New York. And one of my patients, she was editor of Gourmet magazine, which is the largest food magazine in the world. And I had the pleasure of dialysing this lady 3 times a week. And this gave me an insight to the best food, and should I say wine, that New York had to offer, because all the top restaurants would send her samples on her dialysis days, because during the first hour of dialysis, they can eat and drink what they want. And obviously, if she ate a little bit too much, I'd keep her on that little bit longer to make sure that everything was dialysed through. So I got a great insight to the food industry in New York. And one day we were chatting, and chocolate came up in the conversation, and I said, gosh, I would love to see how chocolate is made. Because I said, my uncle, now a lot of the attendees tonight probably don't remember these, but probably do remember the macaroon bar, which is still available, and the Clipso bar. Well, that was my uncle. And my first visit, he had his place in Glasnevin in Dublin. And I remember going in there as a child, watching them be made, and just being totally mesmerized. So she said, look, she said, my friends have the oldest chocolate business in New York. She said, I'll introduce you. So the two of us headed down to visit them, and I supposedly was there for half an hour. I spent 2 years there, Jim. And that's where I learned the trade. I apprenticed as a chocolatier. I worked as a nurse at night because I got the princely sum of $50 a week for the privilege of working with them, which I'm sure some of the attendees are horrified at the thought, but it gave me a valuable skill that, you know, took me to where I am today. And then after 2 years, I was realizing, you know, I needed to get back into the real world. And so I followed my back into my nursing career. Then we moved, spent some time in South America, then moved to London, and then eventually we moved back to Dublin. And when I was in Dublin, and I was back in the nursing area, and I quickly realized that, you know, I think it was time for me to try something else. Didn't know what I was going to do, but at the time, my father's old surgery and waiting rooms were empty, and I decided, well, with the aid of my husband, we used to, anytime you'd get some chocolates, we'd dissect them to see how they were made. And he said to me, do you know, Ruth, you used to make an awful lot better than that. And I said, you know, you're right. So with that, I researched getting my first lot of ingredients and packaging. We converted my father's old surgery, and I convinced 2 local shops to sell the product for that Christmas. And I did the craft fair in the RDF. And then after Christmas, I suddenly realized, oh, people were still looking for them. So at the time, there was no Leo office. They were only actually starting up, and there was very little supports out there. So basically, you know, it was a walk in, you know, it was a totally different area to walk into. I knew nothing about it. I made plenty of mistakes, but I learned from them, and I didn't make them a second time. And the business developed. It actually developed to a stage where we were wholesaling chocolates for private label. You know, if you look at the likes of Avoca Hand Weavers, the Kilkenny shop, anywhere in Ireland you saw an own label chocolate, we were actually manufacturing. And then it got to the stage where a lot of the companies, the bigger companies, we were competing against them on the same shelf, and yet their production capacity was like 800,000 units a day. Ours was 30,000 at the time. And so we got some advice from a mentor, and he advised us to actually downsize, or we would have to invest over $1.5 million upwards to bring us up to that level. And it's thanks be to God, we decided to downsize. As they say, small is beautiful. And you know, people get obsessed about turnover, but it's one thing I learned from that was, you know, turnover is vanity, profit is sanity. And I say that to myself every day. We started at the cafe, and we sold just directly from the cafe. And then I also kept on some of my corporate customers, and they're still with me to this day, thanks be to God. And that's sort of my journey, Jim.
No, fair play, Ruth. Now, I've heard your journey before, and I've always been impressed. But as you did to this chocolate, I'm going to dissect your journey now, okay? So you started off as a nurse.
Yes.
You got as much information as you possibly could from the patients that you were working with, as you have to say with me. So, like, as you're saying, like, gathering that knowledge is so important. Do you think that is one of the key?
Yes. Oh, without a doubt. And I mean, also, you know, during my time there, you know, I met so many different restaurateurs in New York, and you know, I have this notebook. I still have it to this day, and and that's one thing I would advise. You know, your career is a journey, you know, and it's going to take many different. That road is going to take many different turns, and I've always, you know, wrote down, you know, my different experiences at different times. And it's surprising when you read back and you remember, you see things and you say, gosh, yeah, this will help me in this situation. And it's my little Bible. It's a bit tattered at this stage, Jim, but it's my little Bible.
So Ruth, one of the main things is, and I suppose the fear factor about anyone going into business, you're coming from a nursing background. How did you get into opening up your own business? How did you go about doing it?
I suppose I chanced my arm. And I was amazed. I couldn't believe that people actually enjoyed my product. That took me an awful long time. But then I said, here, listen, they're still buying. So I'm doing something right. And, and like Jim, there was plenty of times where I did things where, they were total disaster. But I learned from it and I didn't do it a second time. Or, and it was... I don't know, it's part of the process.
As Foróige would say, learning by doing approach.
Exactly.
You have here, so to start up a business, did you get any advice? Did you get any support? Did you get...
That's what I said earlier there, like the enterprise boards were actually they were actually in their infancy when I was starting up. And it was about my second year in that there was any supports available. And yes, I did get, I got capital grants because we moved from the original kitchen down to a purpose-built manufacturing unit. Like at that stage, we decided to downsize. We were employing 35 people at that stage, Jim. And that year, and there was 3 things that happened that year. And these are things that we would never have foreseen. One was our public product liability went through the roof. Like it went up to 30,000. To be, that was one. Another, we had this fantastic company in Sweden. They were like the Avoca hand weavers of Sweden, and they had 20 shops all over Sweden, and we used to we supplied them with a range of products. But our packaging supplier went out of business. We had produced our product. We didn't know it at the time. It was literally, and we couldn't turn the packaging around, a new supplier around in time for that particular order, which we lost out on. And also the likes of Butlers and Lear, who would be, the larger chocolate producers in Ireland, they were all doing 3 for the price of 2. When they're producing 800,000 units a day and we're only producing 30, and ours are pure handmade, and theirs, are mass produced, you had to make that decision. And we were very lucky we did, because, the crash came shortly afterwards. So it was the right decision to make at the time. But it was a very difficult one, because I had brought it from just me right up to 35 people. But, life goes on, and it was good, it was a good decision to make at the time. But we've experienced, sort of from, we're nearly back at micro now at this stage, because there's only me and one other person that produce for the cafe and corporate. But that's fine,
Ruth, you have here on your intro, you have a diploma in corporate business. When did you do that?
I did that in 2012.
Okay, so you were well into business at this stage before.
Oh yeah, but I learned an awful lot from it, but it also, it was a great networking opportunity. Like I met so many different people from different stream, different types of businesses. So it was an invaluable thing for me. I don't think you're ever too old to actually do a course and learn something,
And what did that entail? What was in that diploma? What did you learn in there?
it was primarily it was to do with the food industry. So there was a lot of the work we did was with Chagas. It was we also did a bit of product development with them. So we had to, part of our course was we had to develop a product for it and get it to market and all of that, and all the different business aspects of doing that.
So Ruth, I'm just going to ask a question here that's coming in. What would you say are the first things a person should do if they want to start their own business?
Well, today, my gosh, the supports that are out there today are fantastic. Your local enterprise office has an amazing amount of supports available for startups, and they do the first thing that I would, and if it was there when I was starting off, they do a start your own business course. Even if you were never to do to start your own business, to do that course is it's a great learning opportunity. It really is, and there's a lot of people that do the because I'm a mentor with the Leo offices. There's a lot of people that actually do the course that they don't have a business idea at that time, but some people have they develop an idea as a result of doing the course.
Yeah, absolutely. I did the course myself with the local Leo office, and it's a 4-day course. It's very, very interesting. It brings you right from starting your own business, looking after the taxes that you'll be paying, and even into marketing your own business. So it's an excellent course in your local enterprise office. Ruth, what would you say are the main characteristics of a person that goes into business? What kind of characteristics should you have?
Be a bit. I suppose, well, for me personally, I really don't, if you're a person that worries an awful lot about things, I don't think starting your own business is the thing to do, if you're looking for something that's 9 to 5, that just is not the case. And I'm sure the other speakers tonight will agree with me there. Like the amount of, you have to enjoy and love what you're doing. And I have to say, like I love my nursing, don't get me wrong, but that was then, and I love what I do now. So, and you don't, if you love what you do, you don't, it doesn't feel like work. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And you talked about, you need courage is one thing to be a business, to run your own business. Is there anything, if you're working with customers there, is that easy?
No. The public are very challenging. There's no two ways about it, and they're becoming more challenging as time goes on. But something, that's all part of it, Jim. But at the flip side of it, we wouldn't have the public if we wouldn't have a business if we didn't have the public. And you do meet the odd gem that would do your head in, but the vast majority of people are wonderful. And I have to say, during this pandemic, that has proven it in spades for me personally. The support I've got locally from people with my business has been amazing.
Ruth, I know from COVID, your doors are closed at the moment with the cafe, but you had to go online. A lot of your stuff had to go online. So do you think that advertising online is important? That a business
I never sold online before COVID, and now we have, thanks to the Leo office, actually we have we got an amazing grant to develop a website, and I wouldn't say I'm 100% out of it, but I get support from my family with the website. But definitely has been a lifeline for me in our business. And I've sort of, Jim, I've had three developments during COVID one. COVID one was my website. COVID two, I developed this hot chocolate bomb, which bombed. Oh my God! Like I was making them in my sleep, and then COVID three.
Just to clarify there, Ruth, okay? Bombed means completely something different than what you're doing there. Okay?
Sorry.
I think Ruth means it was quite successful.
Yes.
Ruth, I'm just conscious of the time there now. Owning a business, would you recommend, like, there's young people on here tonight. I know it's been very difficult to get work placement and work experience. But what is your advice to young people out there looking to get and own their own business? You learned on your job as a nurse about what business you wanted to get into. What advice would you give young people there? Would you get them to work in places?
To be honest with you, like, you know, I think it's very difficult at your age to know exactly. I didn't know what I wanted. I had actually got a place for medicine, but I was too young. And then I also got a nursing place. And at the time you got paid for being a nurse. So a year later, I was getting paid. I was getting money in my hand every month. So, you know, I was very happy with nursing and I continued. And, you know, look, I think you have to take the most out of every opportunity that you get as you move along in your career, because the day of being in one job for a lifetime, you know, it's gone. Without a doubt, it's gone. But I mean, but you have to love what you're doing, because if you don't, and if it's hard work, you know, number one, it won't be successful. You know, and you know, number two, you know, you're just, you know, it's just not going to work.
Ruth, thank you very much. I'm just going to add to that. So courage, determination, and innovation will be the three I'm hearing from you from the interviews about running your own business. Thanks, Ruth. Ruth, there's a few questions in there that we'll probably get back to at the end of the
okay,
after the speakers have spoke, and we will get back to you then. Thank you very much, Ruth.
Thanks, Jim.
Cheers. Okay, next up tonight to speak, we have Angela Brady. Angela, originally from Scotland, she won't be able to hide that tonight, has a BA in accountancy and marketing with a diploma in leadership. Angela is the owner of the very busy Midland Language Centre. How are you, Angela? And you're very welcome tonight.
Thank you, Jim.
I'm going to open the floor to you.
Happy to be here. Okay, so hi everyone. I'm going to just tell my story, and then feel free to put questions in the chat box and we can answer them later on. So my name is Angela Brady. I live in Longford and I own a company called MLC, Student Language Programs. So as the name suggests, what we do is we organise trips to Ireland for teenagers from across Europe who want to come to Ireland to improve their English. So a lot of you may have seen Spanish students in your neighbourhood, you may have hosted French students yourselves, you may have seen Italian students in your school. There's a chance that they came from our company. So that's what we do. We organise programmes for students that might want to come and spend the year in Ireland. So they come to Ireland, they stay with a host family and they attend the local secondary school, and then they go back to their own country afterwards and they progress on to their next year. And the main purpose, the main reason they would have come to Ireland is to improve their English and to have a cultural experience and experience life in a different country as well. And then there are other students, the other type of program we offer is during the summer holidays, and they tend to be short-term 2, 3, 4 week trips for, again, European teenagers who come to Ireland, stay with families and do different activity programs. So we don't offer the traditional program, which a lot of companies offer, which would be you come to Ireland and you go to English classes every day with other international students. We kind of figured out that maybe students don't want to be in classrooms in the summer when they've been in classroom all year, or maybe they're coming to Ireland, they don't want to be in a group of international students. They want to immerse themselves with an Irish family and hear English being spoken by native English speakers. So that's the route that we took. So we organised the host family stays, and then we have activity camps. So if you were an Italian student and you booked one of our programs, you could be going to Carling for 3 weeks, where you'd stay with a family, hang out with them and do activities in the evenings and at the weekends with your family. And then during the day, you'd be going to Carling for an adventure centre and kayaking or building a hut in the forest or paintballing, whatever it may be. And then you could be doing a different programme. You could be doing a rugby camp in Dublin, or a tennis camp in Mullingar. You could be surfing in Lahinch, or you could be doing a music, acting and dance camp in Athlone. So we're always trying to develop new programmes and listen to what it is that students are looking for. And so those are the types of programmes. That's what our company does. We have lots of students who come back year after year, which is great to see. Or a student might come for summer programme and then come back the following year to do a full academic year. And that's what we love to see. That's the really rewarding part of the job. So how did I come to be doing that? As Jim said, I'm from Scotland and now I'm living in Longford. So there's a story, there's a journey that I took to get here. When I was in school, when I was your age, I was unsure of what to do when I went to university, or whether to go to university or what to do. I enjoyed school. I liked the social side of school a lot as well. And I loved English and I loved writing, but I wasn't quite sure what type of career that could give me. So I also was okay at accounting. It was something I was quite good at in school. And I think maybe looking back, my dad was a financial advisor. So maybe my parents encouraged me down that side, that path instead. So in Scotland, just to say as well, the education system is very similar than in Ireland, but it's not, the Leaving Cert isn't the be all and end all. They're called Highers, or they were called Highers when I did them in Scotland, and they were examined over 2 years. So there wasn't the same, pressure or the same focus as there is in 6th year. There wasn't that same pressure in Scotland. We had the 2 years to do our exams over. But I applied anyway to do accounting, and I also then, as my second part, a lot of people were choosing accounting and finance, or accounting and economics. I chose accounting and marketing, which there was only one other person on my course of 300 people. There was only one other person doing that. It was a bizarre combination of things to choose, but I'm so glad I did, because I knew deep down I knew I didn't want to be an accountant, and I thought the marketing might add like a more light-hearted element or a more fun element to it. So I did accounting and marketing. They didn't complement each other at all, but I persevered. And I often wonder if I had gone with English or if I had gone with writing, where it would have taken me. And I think it just shows you there's not just one path to get to where you want to go. There's different paths that you can take. And if you make a choice, that doesn't have to be your choice for life. You can still change your mind. So I chose accounting and marketing, and I really enjoyed university. For me, it was a great experience. I was from a town way up in the Highlands of Scotland called Inverness, and I went to university in Glasgow. So I lived away from home, obviously. I had a great time at university. I never did really love the accounting side of it, but all the other electives I enjoyed. I did things I had never tried before: economics, statistics, business law. We did a great course an elective called Area Studies that was about the economies in different countries, which I really opened my eyes a lot and realised there was more than just business in Scotland. And then I also got a part-time job. So I worked for Red Bull, the energy drink, which was brilliant fun. We used to do promotions that were promoting Red Bull. So we'd go to different sports events or like car rallies. We used to have to work really early mornings sometimes, or late nights, because it was about, Red Bull was an energy drink and it was about finding people when they were tired. So I worked with a bunch of really fun people, and we used to drive around in this Red Bull Mini with a big 7-foot can of Red Bull sticking off the top of it. So it was good fun, and that was a part of uni life that I really enjoyed as well. And then with my job in Red Bull, I decided to do my dissertation in 4th year, my thesis on Red Bull, and specifically why it was seen in the UK and Ireland to be kind of a vodka, Red Bull and alcohol. There was an alcohol side to it, whereas the brand had always really been intended for use in sports and for driving and that type of thing. And so having studied marketing, and I wondered where had the marketing message gone wrong, or what was the strategy with the communications, or why did that happen? So when I was doing my thesis, I went to the Red Bull head office, and it was in London, and it was really exciting, and it was in Soho Square. It was very glamorous, and I got to chat with the communications team, the brand managers, the PR people, and it just really, really interested me. And I thought, okay, this is something I really want to follow. This is a company that I like and a sector that I like. So then I made my feelings known that I was definitely open to employment opportunities after graduation. And luckily they offered me a job as a junior brand manager in Scotland. So I think I actually in the end had to take the day off work to go to my graduation, just the way it all worked out. So I was lucky that way, but all my classmates at uni were applying for KPMG and Deloitte and Ernst & Young and things, and I never looked back. I knew I was making the right decision. And even though my parents were skeptical of it, and my friends, my classmates and things were skeptical of it, but I just knew that wasn't the path for me. And the Red Bull, I really wanted to take that opportunity and go work for Red Bull. So that's what I did, and I worked for them for 3 years after I finished, and it was fantastic. Lots of opportunity to travel. I learned so much, and I think a big part of it was my boss at the time. He was so inspirational, and I'm so grateful to have had him as a mentor, and I learned so much from him. There was no end to his imagination, basically, and we were doing a lot of events, and he would come up with ideas. The next event, we're going to put this marquee and we're going to put it on the top of that mountain, and we're going to get everybody up there for the event. And this, just was never going to work, and all the logistics people were saying it couldn't be done, and that just made him even more determined. And so his energy was infectious, and so everybody's imagination used to run wild then, and we'd come up with ideas that we never would have come up with before. I'm still in contact with him, and I just learned so much from him. So if you can find a good mentor, or you can find someone that inspires you, then just learn everything you can from them, ask them questions, try and work beside them, and they're really, really valuable for later in life. So I was doing that job, and then I was looking to progress, and with Red Bull, the progression would have been going to London, and for me, that wasn't at the time what I wanted to do. And the other thing that happened to me in university was I met an Irish guy from Longford, who's now my husband, and that's why I'm in Longford. But we met at university, and after working for a few years after uni, we decided to go traveling. So that's another thing. We spent 2 years traveling. He had gone and done a ski season first of all, and I stayed on with Red Bull, and then we finished, and we spent about 2 years traveling. We drove across America, we went to New Zealand, we spent time in Australia. We worked a lot in Australia because our money had run out by then. And then we went to South America at the end, which is a very cheap place to go, which suited us very well at that stage in our travels. And then we came back, and we didn't know whether to go back to Australia, go back to Scotland, go to Ireland. I'd been to Ireland on visits before, but never lived here. And so we decided to come to Ireland for the summer. So it was 2004. The economy was going well. Ireland was booming. Everybody was in employment. Things were good. And we came to Longford, and my boyfriend's mother had a small business that she run. First of all, she was a force of energy. So she was another very inspiring person that I got to learn from in my life. She had a small business that brought in Spanish students into Longford for 1 month in the summer. And she needed extra pairs of hands in the summer, people to drive to the airport or work as group leaders and take students on a trip to Dublin. So I was very keen to do this and see a bit of Ireland myself and learn the ropes. And I had travel in my bones at the time from just having come back. So I worked with her, and the more I worked with her, the more I just loved the idea of her company and what she was doing. And she loved working for a couple of months in the summer and having the rest of the year off. That suited her lifestyle perfectly. And so that was another thing. She had carved out a lifestyle for herself that suited, we all talk now about the work-life balance. She had a handle on it. She didn't want to be any bigger or make any more money. She had a nice balance, and she was very happy with that. And she was probably coming to the end of her working life, whereas I was 23 or 24, and I just thought, wow, there's such opportunity here. We could, travel was becoming so much easier at the time. there were students, they came over for 4 weeks on a charter flight. You know, Ryanair was just really, you know, gaining traction and things, and low cost airlines, and flights were just starting to become cheaper. Prior to that, to go abroad, it was a massive deal. Even if you were going from Spain to Ireland, you'd come for a month, you know, you'd take these charter flights that arrive in the middle of the night, and that was the model at the time. And I kind of looked at it and I thought, well, travel's becoming cheaper, it's becoming easier, everybody's traveling more. I definitely think, you know, we could bring students into more parts of Ireland rather than just Longford. We could have different programs with different activities rather than just the homestay, and we could have students from different countries rather than just Spain. So I had all these ideas and absolutely no clue how to put them into reality. But I had ideas, and I wasn't afraid of giving them a go. I had nothing to lose really, because I wasn't in a job that I had to leave, and I didn't at the time, I didn't have any real responsibilities in terms of, you know, mortgage or big loans or anything like that. Luckily, I didn't have any money because I'd just come back from traveling, but I had nothing holding me back either. So I spoke to her about that, and she was delighted to. She didn't have the energy to do or the desire to do it herself, but she was delighted by this idea that the company would go on and maybe had the potential of growing. So that's what I did, and I did it very slowly. It was just me. So I first of all needed to learn a bit more about Ireland. So I spoke to host families, I spoke to parents, I spoke to students who were coming over, and I spoke to their parents and just tried to find out, okay, what do students want? Because that was one key thing. You know, I might have all these ideas about things that I think would be fantastic, but if nobody is going to pay for them or want to take us up on them, there would be no point. So the market research was a really important part of that. Talking to people and talking to the agents who currently had sent students and asking them would they have more students to send if I had more programs to offer. And you know, there was a little bit of skepticism. They were probably my mother-in-law's age. They didn't know if they really wanted to grow. So I kind of realized, okay, I have to find some new agents, and how do I find agents? And there was a little bit of networking involved, and just finding out, okay, are there organizations where there's groups of agents in Spain, rather than trying to market to parents in France or Spain directly? You know, what's the smart way of doing this? And if I have a partner in Spain, surely they can deal with all the Spanish parents, they can market to the schools, they can speak Spanish to start with, and talk to the parents a lot better than I can. And I'm going to look after the Irish families, and I'm going to look after the students when they're here. So I started building up partnerships with the people in Spain and in France, and it was very slow. I mean, that was 2004, and you know, now we're in 2021, but it's been a long road. And when you were dealing with parents sending their children, imagine if your parents were going to send you to Spain tomorrow to go and live with a family, they definitely would be doing their research to find out, okay, who are these people my precious son or daughter is going to live with? Have they been Garda vetted? Have they, what's their house like? You know, where do they live? So that was our responsibility, was to make sure that we did it slowly, and that parents knew they could trust us, and build up trust with our agents. So we brought them all our agents over to visit us. We went to visit them. It's a massive, relationships are a big part of what we do, because we're not dealing with cans of beans or with chocolates as much as I would like to. You know, we're dealing with children who are going to be away from their parents and who are vulnerable, and there's an awful lot of responsibility that goes alongside it. It's good fun to think, okay, I'm going to go on a horse riding program for 2 weeks in Galway. But, you know, there's obviously a lot of responsibility that goes alongside it as well, and had to look into all those types of things, insurance, and what happens if anything that we couldn't imagine, like a global pandemic, or, you know, an ash cloud, or who knows what could happen. Now, we never planned for a global pandemic, but here we are. So it was a very steep learning curve. You know, I made lots of mistakes, like, as well, not knowing the culture was a hindrance as well, and driving around Ireland to visit families, and the address, there was no postcodes, which was really frustrating. And then, you know, there's no street numbers, so I'm going to a place in 4 Mile House, and I'm like, is that the name of the house, or is that the town, or is that where is this? You know, and I'd arrive and I'd say, oh, hello, Mrs. Costello, and she'd be like, it's Costello, you know. So there was a lot of little tiny things like that, and much bigger ones, learning curves along the way, and problems and mistakes I made. But I think, as Ruth said as well, if you don't make mistakes, you're not learning. You know, you're not pushing yourself. You're not out pushing yourself outside your comfort zone. You could always just stay doing the same little thing, but eventually other people are going to pass you out and pass you by, and you got to keep changing it up and listening to what people want, and trying to see if that's a direction that you want to go in, then you go. And if it doesn't work, you close that chapter and you learn from it and you go in a different direction. So we've done that an awful lot of times. So we now are in a position where we have a team. There's 8 of us in the team, so I had to learn all about the business side of it as well. I had done accountancy, which it came into its own. You know, it actually came in very useful in the end. So lots of, but I had to learn about Irish accounting and Irish payroll and all the systems that are here. So did lots of courses, spoke to the local enterprise office as Ruth did. We've developed, our database was very old-fashioned, and that's something that over the last year we've taken the COVID time when we had no summer students last year. That would be a big blow for us not to have any summer students. But you know, we kept the team intact. We had nothing really to do last summer, but we said, okay, well, what can we work on? We got wage subsidy scheme for the government, which has been a lifesaver, and we improved all our systems and did all the work that gets put on the long finger. So we built a new database. We improved all our documentation, made everything online, and instead of having all this paperwork and things to print, all our application forms, made them all editable and fillable online, redid our database, and spoke to our families a lot and spoke to our agents a lot, and tried to regroup and work out what we needed to do to run programs successfully in the future. And so this year we have some students here this academic year, and we won't have any students again this summer, but then we're planning for a big return September coming, and there's definitely a lot of appetite out there, and we've really kept in touch with our agents. And one thing our partners, our agents and partners in the other countries have said is the communication has just been key to the whole thing. We've stayed in contact, we've kept them up to date, so they're there now ready to pick up the pieces again, and they're really enthusiastic and like how we coped with the challenging times and the difficult times. So they're very happy to be working with us again, hopefully when things come back in the weeks and months ahead. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea there.
Oh, that's great. There's a few questions here, so I'm just going to put some of them to you. So a few people have asked, do you feel that doing business or accountancy, or in your case possibly marketing at 3rd level, had helped you when you went down the route of starting the business?
Yes, I definitely think so. I think, you know, I didn't become an accountant, but there were skills I learned that I applied to my job. The marketing side of it, absolutely, and especially when you own your own business. Maybe now everybody will make their own choices, but if you're not too sure, go for a more general thing maybe, because then if you're going to learn a little bit of, if you do a business degree, you're going to learn a little bit about accounting, a little bit about finance, a little bit about marketing, a bit about everything. And even if you don't think you're going to use it directly, or even if I don't think I am using certain skills directly, if I sit back and think about it, absolutely. There's so much I learned at university and in different jobs. Like I'd never thought when I was in 4th year in Scotland, oh, I'm going to live in the Midlands of Ireland and run a student travel company. You know, that wasn't the plan, but here I am. And definitely the jobs I had along the way, even the student job with Red Bull, I learned a lot from. And so definitely from my degree and from different work experience, even though it was in a totally separate field, even temping jobs I did in Australia and South America, you can pick up something from every job you do.
That's actually a question that's here as well. Like, would you recommend working, say, in a sales type business like Red Bull before opening your own? Do you think you learned some aspects there? Yeah,
definitely. I think if you do have an idea of what you want to do, if you can get work experience in the same industry, you're going to learn skills, but you're going to make connections. You're going to learn really specific things that will really help you. You know, a friend of mine owns a recruitment agency, and his biggest regret is not having worked in a recruitment company beforehand. because he made a lot of mistakes along the way that he wouldn't have made if he had worked in that industry. So I think if you know what you want to do, definitely take a year or two, first of all, and go and get work experience in similar companies, because you're going to learn an awful lot.
Okay. Do you think you need to be creative and a creative individual to run or start your own business? Or what maybe do you think is a really important personal aspect?
Yeah, I think creative, yes, and I think to have vision, like not to be blinkered, to have a bit of imagination. So I suppose that is like creativity or imagination or vision, to be able to have a big goal, and that just helps you. You might never get to the big goal, or it might take you a long time to get to the big goal, but I think you have to think big and not see the negatives or not see the limitations, but just see the possibilities, and then you can deal with those limitations and you can work out the practical side of it. But I definitely think maybe imagination and vision more so, and creativity, yeah.
And then just leading on from that, I see somebody has asked here, like, should you just run with the light bulb moment? If you think this is going to work, should you maybe just try and see what happens?
Absolutely. Like, you see lots and lots of entrepreneurs and people on social media talking about how they just jumped off the deep end, just took the plunge. Now, if there's a lot of financial investment involved, make a business plan, do a bit of research, talk to people in business already. Don't take a huge loan and dive off the deep end without having made any type of plans or spoken to anyone. I made a business plan. I showed it to different people who didn't work in my industry at all, but I valued their opinion. And I think it's good to speak to some people who have a lot of vision. It's good to speak to some people who are really practical and more pragmatic, and don't ask people that are just going to support you and say yes. Ask people who might put some objections in the way, or ask you some questions, difficult questions that might make you think about it from a different point of view or from a different angle.
And when you say a business plan, you might just maybe tell the young people, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So we were applying for a loan. I was applying for a loan because I wanted to employ somebody to work with me. And so at that point, the business wasn't from scratch. I suppose in my particular situation, it wasn't a business that was starting from scratch. It was already a business, but it was just on a very small scale. And so I had to put together projections about what turnover I thought I would do and what the costs I thought would be associated with that. And as Ruth said as well, turnover is vain, profit is gain. So it's all about the costs and what the bottom line was. So they wanted to see projections. Were we being realistic? So I don't think they're looking for you to necessarily blow the world out, blow things out of the water. They're looking for realistic. So projections were a big part of that. So you need to do your homework and find out what type of salary would I need to pay myself? What type of salary would I need to pay somebody else? What are the cost of the materials? Or like in my case, what's the cost of paying the family, paying the school, paying for the activity camp, transporting that student to and from the airport? And that doesn't mean just paying the driver, that means the tolls and the fuel and the road tax and the car insurance, and thinking through all your costs. And then your office and all your things that you need to. I started in the bedroom of a house, but if you're going to have costs that are incurred with renting an office space, or maybe you're going to work in one of the hubs that are going to be coming around the place that I would have loved to have worked in. Think it all through, think through every step. And that was my business plan. What do I want to do? How am I going to get there? And how am I going to finance it? And the first I applied to send it to 3 banks, and 2 banks said no, and 1 bank said yes. So I chose that bank that said yes, and I went with them, and I'm still with them today. And that was the way it worked out. So just because somebody says no, it might not be right, might not be the right fit for them, but keep trying and knock on other doors. And there's more and more, as Ruth said, Leo wasn't really available at when she was starting out, but there's more and more things available to young people now and to people starting in business. So do your research on that front as well, and take advantage and apply for everything that you can.
Okay, and last question, Angela. Do you think it's more difficult for a woman in business than it is for men?
Well, I only have my experience as a woman, so it's hard to say. I mean, I've been very lucky. You know, in the jobs I've done, the person that I spoke about that was really inspiring and a great boss and a great mentor to me, he was a man, and there was never any question. Like in Red Bull, there was a lot of senior people who were women. So I suppose I was very lucky in my case and my experience not to have encountered it, but I know it is very difficult, and depending on your industry, there's a lot of industries that are very male dominated. You know, maybe my industry, we're talking with families a lot, we're talking with students, you know, not to generalize, but that might be quite a female dominated industry really. A lot of the people who work in similar companies are women, but I know in general it can be very difficult. Yeah.
Okay. Angela, thanks a million for all of that. And we will come back with more questions in the final Q&A.
No problem. Thank you.
Last up tonight, we're going to welcome Shona Dubois. Shona has a degree specialising in economics and finance. Shona is the Director of Operations at Grow It Yourself, or Grow HQ, as popularised on RTE's Grow, Cook, Eat programme. You're very welcome to the panel, Shona, and I'm going to ask Erica to interview you.
Thanks, Bernie.
Welcome, Shona. Thanks very much for being part of the webinar tonight.
No problem. I'm learning loads from Ruth and Angela myself.
So can you tell the young people just a little bit about you, just a few sentences of your background, Shona, just to introduce you?
Yeah, so I am the Director of Operations for GIY, and what we are is a social enterprise or a not-for-profit, which basically means that we work with a really strong kind of mission focused. And that mission is about having positive social impact. And in our case, what we try to do is reconnect people with food and develop something that we call food empathy, which is just a deeper understanding and connection back to where food comes from, how food grows. And we find there's just loads of really positive benefits in that. You just are a more conscious consumer, you have better health and well-being, you'll eat better. There's loads of really good reasons why we would always encourage people to grow food. And so I've been doing this for 7 years. Like the business that I'm working in today is not at all the business I stepped into 7 years. Like we've been on a huge growth path since then. Like we started off when I came in, there was maybe 5 of us, and now there's 30 of us. And we have a place in Waterford now called Grow HQ, where the TV series was filmed over the last few years. And it's just been a really exciting place to work, because I've had that both sides of the business. So we have the GIY side, the kind of original company, the original social enterprise, which runs all our food growing programs, and we partner up with big brands like Innocent, Energia, and lots of other people. And then we have like a hospitality, a food and beverage business at Grow HQ, because we opened a cafe there, we have organic gardens there, we teach people how to grow food there, we teach people how to cook, we have a shop. So we've a really, really interesting mix now of kind of pure operational stuff, as well as the kind of office-based big food programs that go out, you know, outside of Waterford.
And can you explain to young people what your role in this, in the company is?
What my role is. So it's many things, as I think anybody who works in operations. So basically operations tends to be a kind of a catch-all for the people that do stuff. And, or at least it certainly is in our business. And so basically the easy way to explain what I do is I make sure that the right people are in the right place, doing the right job at the right time for the right cost. So that applies across all of the many different activities that we do. So whether that's making sure that I have somebody stocking shelves in the shop and that they're trained and that they know the prices and all the rest of it, whether we have a barista to serve our customers, or whether we're liaising with, you know, a brilliant agency like Innocent in the UK. So it's just all about looking at what are we trying to achieve as an organization, and so kind of up there at the strategic level, you know, what are our goals and ambitions, and then how does that translate? How does the big lofty vision, how do we make that happen? And that's what I do in my job, is I take the big vision, and when you work for a social entrepreneur like I do, it's all about the vision, and it's taking that vision and turning it into an action plan. So it's basically making that happen.
So what would your daily routine be like? So when do you start work? Is it, you know, 20% managing staff? Is it 20% dealing with suppliers?
Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, so it's a real mix, but generally I work Monday to Friday, work 9 to 5-ish. And obviously that varies depending on different times of the year. Sometimes you're a bit busier and you might work on a little bit longer, but generally speaking, it's a Monday to Friday job. Most of my time now is managing people, and as the organization has grown, my responsibilities, my own team has grown. We now have a management team that reports into me, so we've just had a lot of new people come on board. So a lot of my time is actually managing people, which is great because I love that. I love people and I love helping them get organized, which is my other big thing. Like get organizing and people, the two things that I just love about the work. And then I at the moment I'm lucky enough I can actually go into Grow HQ, so the office is at HQ. So I go in there. There may be meetings, so there could be one-to-one meetings, there could be operations meetings at the moment because we have a cafe, a bit like Ruth. We're all hands on deck now, getting ready to reopen our cafe and have customers back in the building, thankfully. So there's a lot of operational things happening there at the moment. We're getting the place repainted, we're making sure staff are refreshed in their training, bringing staff back to work. So it's a real mix of kind of the hands-on stuff down in the day-to-day running of a business. And then I also have I work alongside some amazing, my colleagues on the leadership team, and we would always kind of have one eye on the strategy. So we'd be doing lots of kind of planning for the quarter ahead, planning for the end of year reports. We have a board that we report into, so maybe quite a bit of my work is involved in reporting back the activities of what we're doing.
Okay, so you said that you have been working with Grow It Yourself for 7 years. So how did you get here? So do you want to give the young people a little bit of your story of what took you or what got you to Grow It Yourself?
Yeah, so like the other ladies, not at all what I thought I'd be doing when I was sitting my Leaving Cert all those years ago. And when I was your age, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I loved English. I liked writing a little bit like Angela. Thought I kind of had an idea, maybe I'd like to do journalism. When the time came then, like journalism just wasn't on the cards for me. And not because I didn't want to do it, but like logistically, my parents couldn't afford to send me off up to Dublin, which is the only place that you could do journalism at the time. So my mum, who was a secondary school teacher, said, look, do an arts degree, keep it general, go in and do English, get your degree and then you can do a master's. So like I kind of had that sense that it wasn't exactly what I really wanted to do. It was in the same area, but it would might take me a bit longer to get into journalism, but I'd get there in the end. And so I went to Galway, brilliant city, like had an absolute ball, stayed there for 8 years and, did first and second year, didn't really excel at the academic side of things. I kind of very quickly, I got a little bit, I suppose, bored with it because I started working while I was in college and I started working in a nightclub. I was running club nights, I was doing promotions, I was doing marketing, I was doing all that kind of salesy stuff, sales and marketing stuff. And the more I was doing that, the more it just kind of really showed me that what I want to be learning and studying, I want to learn about budgets, I want to learn about marketing, and that wasn't the kind of course that I was on. So I foolishly now, when I look back, I decided to leave and go out into the workplace because I had a good opportunity came my way. And so kind of at the time, it felt like this is a better opportunity than sticking out a course, the last year of this course that isn't really exciting me. And so that's what I did. And then I kind of, I worked in that kind of stuff for a while, doing sales, doing marketing, and I got into a photography studio. I was running that for a couple of years, loved that, loved the creativity of it, a nice small team. And then I decided I was going to move back home. This was in Galway, so I decided to move back home to Waterford. And I got into kind of other retail management roles, all the while kind of, happy enough like with what I was doing, really enjoyed retail management, learned a huge amount, but always kind of regretful that I hadn't finished the degree and had my mother in my ear telling me all along, you'll regret now that you didn't finish that. It was only a year and you should have just stuck it out. So I was pure determined then I have to prove her wrong, like, and just do well, whatever I do. So nothing like that to motivate you. But I kind of came a bit of a cropper, so it felt like everything was going really well for me. And then I won't get into the big dirty detail, but I made a few stupid mistakes in my role as a retail manager and I lost my job. And like, it was devastating actually, because I kind of, as a lot of people do, I think when you're younger, you kind of put all your sense of self is very much, or for me anyway, it was very much tied in with the job that I did. And then all of a sudden, through my own fault, had lost this job that meant so much to me. And it was a real knock, and it just kind of, it put everything on pause a little bit for me. And I had to kind of take a step and go, well, what am I going to do now? Because I didn't want to go back into retail after that experience. And then I decided, like, it's now or never. Like, now is actually the perfect time for me to go back and get that degree. And so that's what I did. I went back as a mature student. I studied business in Waterford, and I specialised in economics and finance. And it was a 4-year full-time degree. I had 2 kids along the way, and it was the absolute I did it because I felt like the worst thing had ever happened. You know, I lost my job and I had to find something else. And it has now become the absolute best thing I ever did, because I just learned so much. I had a different mindset going back. The course was exactly what I wanted to learn. I did a little bit of everything. So marketing and management and HR and economics and all this amazing stuff that just really excited me. And then through that, I went out and I did a placement in the local council here in Waterford. I was in the economic development unit because I kind of had notions I was going to work in economics. And while I was there, they run a lot of festivals for the county, and I started working on a food festival, and that just, I don't know, that was it. It was like something clicked. That was this is what I want to be doing. It's planning, and it's event management, and it's creative, and it's food, and it's like civic. It's all about your building that sense of place and pride in your city and tourism, and it just was everything aligned for me. And that was it. Then I finished my degree, decided I was going to go off and work in event management, in kind of especially around food festivals, which is you know, I've always kind of been a bit of a foodie. And whilst I was doing that, GIY, who are based here in Waterford, were running an event as part of that local festival. So I got to know Mick, who's our CEO, and just through good luck and good timing, like, my contract with the food festival came to an end. He was looking for somebody because we'd been working together over the event. We'd gotten to know each other a little bit. He said, I have a job, a ridiculous job at the time. When I look back, I was going to be the impact and operations coordinator. I didn't even know what it meant, but I just knew this is a cool company. It's all about food. I believe in the mission. It's exciting and it's new and it's here in Waterford, and it's like a full-time job, which again was also very appealing. And so I started working for him, and then that was it then. Sure, like, now I'm 7 years later and have, you know, grown with the business. I'm really proud of being part of the growth in the business, seeing us open Grow HQ, and now I couldn't do anything else. That's it.
A lot of the mentors we have had on, you know, like Ruth was saying earlier on, and like Angela, we're telling the young people to seize all the opportunities, because there's learning in absolutely anything, and all the jobs you do, whether it's a Saturday job or whether it's a summer job or whatever else it is.
Yeah.
Would you recommend the young people to do, like, to try and practice their soft skills? And by that, I mean, Shona, you know, like, you use a lot of skills when you're working that you don't necessarily even name in college, like communication and all of those. So would you recommend that to the young people, to practice all those skills?
100%. When I think of the really great places that I've worked and the really not so great places that I've worked, the bit that stands out is about the relationships that you have with the people that you work with, and about how communication is conducted within that business. So things like being a really good listener, an active listener, you know, tuning into, like, all the, you know, even just the body language stuff, like just being able to tune into the people that you're with. Communication and active listening, they're huge, like those kind of soft skills, as well as the values bit, like being empathetic and patient. And, you know, we talk in our business a lot about how to, you know, assume the best of somebody. You know, we all have tough days and we all get under pressure, and you can kind of have a knee-jerk reaction. But if you try and assume the best of people, go in with a positive mindset, you know, assume everybody's just trying to do their best job, and maybe they're not having their best day, but they're just trying to do their best job. And I think having that kind of understanding around other people and how they engage at work is really, really important. Like, knowing how to use Excel and PowerPoint and Microsoft, they're all really important too, but you guys are probably far more advanced at that stuff now anyway than I certainly would be, and any job will kind of teach you their own systems and processes to build on that. So once you have those kind of harder basics, you're grand, but the soft stuff, that's where the magic is for me, and that's the kind of stuff that I look for when we're hiring people in. Like that's the stuff that stands out.
Yeah, and another thing that's come up is, like, you spoke there about losing a job and how it was had a real impact on you because it was an important part of your life. So for young people who maybe don't get the course they want in their Leaving Cert, or get a knock like that, or maybe don't get the job they want or the work experience they want, would you say anything to them about just overcoming those challenges? Because they'll all face them, and we all face them.
Yeah. Yeah, what I'd say is, like, there is disappointment, and you will be disappointed, and you may be, that's just part and parcel of life. And I think you just have to learn how to, I suppose, don't think it's the end of the world. It might feel like it, or allow yourself to have that kind of knee-jerk 10 minutes of, oh my God, it's the end of the world, but it actually isn't the end of the world. And it could be the best thing in the world. Like, that's what it feels like for me. Like, that big bad thing that happened to me turned out to bring me down a path that I never would have gone down. That's been, so satisfying. So allow yourself to feel disappointed. Like, that's only natural. Don't, you don't have to fob it off. It's okay to say I'm disappointed, but don't get stuck in it. There's so many other opportunities out there that you can't even imagine yet, because you don't know what you don't know. And they're all just out there waiting for you. And maybe the one you thought you were going to have isn't the one for you, but there's many more just out there for you. So just keep going. Just keep going until you find the next opportunity.
There was a mentor on a previous webinar saying that there will be young people in jobs that don't even exist now, because industries and everything change. And that's just totally, aligns with what you're saying about we don't know what we don't know. So, don't get stuck on a single career path or a job that you think you want, because you don't know what's going to be open to you in 10 years time.
Yeah, 100%. You really don't. And you also don't know, like that, everything is changing so much. The skills you think, or the skills that society says you have to have for that particular job, you may not actually, because things are changing so much. Or there might be a sidebar into it, or you do your master's in an adjacent. There's just so many different ways to get into work now that there should don't ever feel you're coming to a dead end, because there's a way around it.
And like, it's true as well, I suppose, for the young people, would you agree, Shauna, that even the jobs change? Like, even you say you took a job as, I can't remember the title, impact or something, and your job has changed over the 7 years. And like Ruth spoke about how, she's gone online this year due to necessity. So her company has changed. So like, how important is continuously learning and, trying to upskill all the time?
Yeah, like, it's really, really important. And I think it's something that keeps you challenged as well. Like, my job, like, as you said, it's changed hugely over the years. And even just 7, 8 months ago, had another change and a new restructure. And I'm constantly learning and, adapting my skills and learning from mistakes, for sure. And upskilling, excuse me. I believe it's really important, and for the people that work for us, we're always looking for ways to improve. And whether that's kind of on the softer side, where it's about just communication stuff, or whether it's the hard skills. Like, we've a load of the team are out doing supervisory management training at the moment. So always be open to those opportunities. You're never too old or too young to learn something new, and there'll always be somebody in the room that says something that'll land you, that you might just take away. And it may only be that little nugget, but there you've upskilled already, and you're going to bring that knowledge. Every partner that we work with, we've worked with lots of different corporate agencies. And I can tell you now, like, when I'm sitting in a room and we're figuring out how to launch a campaign, a food growing campaign with a big brand like Innocent, I'm learning all the time. I'm looking at how they do it. How do they run their business? What are the bits that I really love and inspire? What inspires me about how they do things? And what learnings can I take away from that? So, like, you're learning all the time, and you should be learning all the time, whether it's just from your colleagues, or whether it's, other agencies that you're working with, or if it is like developmental stuff where you go off and actually go and study a bit. But there's so many people doing so many amazing things that you can learn from through whatever work you're in. Grab those.
There's a few questions coming in, so excuse me now for looking right, but I have them on the other screen. Somebody has asked, do you think that working in marketing, retail management roles helped you in your role now at the moment, like all your background experience, that management?
Yeah, 100%, because working in business, it's like, for me, it's all about planning. You have to be organized, and, you know, you have to understand budgets. You know, the lads talking about profit versus turnover. And it's so true. You have to understand the numbers. You don't have to be an accountant necessarily, but you do have to understand the numbers. And all the skills, like dealing with customers when I was working in retail, it was all very customer focused. And now, you know, now I'm back in food and beverage again, in hospitality, dealing with customers again. So those skills, they will just stand to you. Those kind of general business skills will stand to you no matter what you end up doing.
And last question, Shona, before we join the panel. What's your favorite part of your role, or what is it that if a young person was thinking about studying business or going into business, what is it that you would say, yes, do it because? What is it that you love about it?
What I love about it is that it's so diverse. Like, business is there, it's like, it's not one thing. You can just do just about everything and anything with those kind of business skills, because every organization, every brand, every job you look at, those fundamentals that you would learn doing a kind of a business management degree will stand you wherever. And that diversity is really exciting, and, you know, brings you wherever you don't even know.
Well, thanks a million, Shona, and thanks for joining us. And we're going to ask the rest of the panelists to come and answer some of the questions with you. I just want to put a question to the panel because it's just come up repeatedly throughout the webinar. So Ruth, you spoke about it, Angela, Shona, how important relationships and connections are. So what advice would you give to the young people about building these connections, even in school? I'm sure they can go out and do work experience, they can do courses that are open to young people. So what advice would you give to young people? We'll start with you, Angela, if you don't mind, about building those connections.
Yeah, I think, as you say, it's never too early to start. Like, it comes naturally to some people, and then other people mightn't find it as easy. But it's a skill that you can learn. You know, if you don't find that you're naturally a good communicator, or that you naturally make a lot of contacts, or you find it easy to talk to people, it's worth still pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and practicing. And because whether it's at school or when you go to, you know, if you go to college or university, then you're going to be in an environment where you don't know anybody, but you mightn't have found your clique at school, but then you might find there's a whole other world of people when you're at university, a much more diverse spread of people, and you can really spread your wings and expand your network. And the more people that you talk to, the more opportunities come your way, and things present themselves, whether it's like at school or at university, like an invitation to a new sports club or to go to a different party. And then the more people you meet and the bigger your network is, the more opportunities are going to come your way.
Thanks a million. What about you, Ruth? What advice would you give to the young people about building connections?
Well, look, I think Angela has sort of captured a lot of it there. But I mean, I think for you know, university is a great opportunity for young people. But I also think, you know, the part-time jobs, to me, they're the university of life, and that's where you know, young people will learn how to deal with people, you know, and to be able to communicate. And you know, because you mightn't necessarily be a people person, as Angela said, and you know, that's something, that's a skill you're going to have to develop, because you're going to, no matter what you do, you're going to have to deal with people, you know, and they're a natural, you know, part of your future. And the earlier you learn these skills, the better for you, and it makes the journey, I think, you know, a lot more easier to manage.
And just building on from that, like in all of your cases, you talked about how you worked in the retail, maybe, you know, or businesses for the first time and didn't know everything about the companies or the organizations you work for. So what, as like, you know, this webinar is business management. So as managers of businesses or owners or managers, like, how do you bring it out the best in people around you or in your staff? So I might put that to Shona first, if you don't mind.
How do we get the best out of our people? That's a really good question. I think God, I don't even know where to start with that one. How do we get the best out of them? Do you know what? Communication, it comes back to communication all the time. Like I find if you set really clear goals with people, if you explain what your expectations are and you lay them out really clearly, this is what we need from you, this is when we need it, this is how we need you to do it, and then you support them and empower them to deliver that, check in with them on their progress, you know, celebrate their wins, congratulate, you know, support them when things aren't going so well. To me, if we could all tick those boxes, then 9 times out of 10 you're going to get the best out of somebody. And if you're not getting the best out of them, hopefully the relationship will be good enough that they'll be able to come and have a chat about why they're not progressing the way you want them to. So yeah.
Thanks very much. Ruth, what would you say about bringing out the best in staff and stuff around you?
Well, I suppose my experience as an employer, you know, making sure that everybody is working together as a team and you're valuing everybody's input. You know, I will never forget an experience. We were looking at developing a new package, and everybody was there, and the cleaner was there as well, and I could see people turning their heads saying, "Oh, what's she doing there?" And you know, she actually identified a flaw in the packaging that nobody else saw. So you know, everybody is, and the important thing is, you know, you have to value everybody's input, and you know, when you are ever in a position where you have responsibility for a team, that to me is so important. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of people don't do that, and you will experience that, but then you will experience fantastic teams, you know, but it's all part, God, here I'm quoting again, the rich tapestry of life.
As people who are managers as well and who hire staff and have people join your teams or your companies, what advice would you give to young people about their CV? Like, what do you look at? Because, you know, it's great to have a qualification, but there'll be 20 other people or 50 other people, depending where you live, that have the same qualification as you. So what other things would you say to the young people to try and get for their CV, or that makes them stand out on an interview panel? So Shona, I might go to you first on that one.
Like CVs they're all pretty samey, and they're just by their nature, especially when you're starting off and you're at the beginning of your career. So for me, the things that make you stand out will be a cover letter. And I know you're probably sick to the face of hearing, I've been told that, but it's true. It is the cover letter that I will examine far more than the academic achievements, because that's where you get to have a little insight into the personality of the person. You learn a little bit about whether their values align potentially with the organizations, what's motivating them. And I think if you can share a little bit of yourself in a cover letter that's and supported by, you know, the CV, whatever it hits the, you know, ticks the boxes of what the organization is looking for, then that's how you'll stand out.
Very good. Angela, what would you say to that?
Yeah, I think it's much more about the personality of the person, which unfortunately you don't get to show until you get to the interview stage. So it's like, how do I show my personality? So yeah, the cover letter is a big thing, or the email, just to have done your homework for the company that you're applying to, and not just be, you know, regurgitating the same general email to all the different jobs and pressing send and BCCing in, you know, 50 companies, just to make it short and catchy and interesting, if you can, about why you're applying to that company.
And what kind of skills outside of education would you, or hobbies or interests or any of that, would you encourage the young people to do, Ruth? You know, because like as both Shona and Angela said, the CVs can be very samey. So
yeah. Well, I think you know, when you're listing out your interests and hobbies, please don't just don't do off the usual list. Do something that you are, write what you actually are interested in, because there's nothing worse than asking somebody at an interview about their an interest, and they're sitting there, oh my God, did I actually write that? You can see it going through their head, you know, oh God, did I write that down, you know? So that to me is very important, because, you know, like there's so many different interests out there, you know, and they all, you know, can contribute in different ways to that individual. So that to me is...
And do experiences like being involved in maybe charities or organisations like Tidy Towns or being on a committee in the GA, Shona, would you say that that all stands to people when they're interviewing?
Yeah, 100%. Like anything at all that shows, you know, a well-rounded person who's interested, you know, has a variety of interests or has contributed. And kind of for us as a social enterprise, those things really help, because there's a lot of community grassroots work in the kind of things that we do. So we look out for stuff like that, like have they been involved in a voluntary organisation? And also just the really interesting things like your passion, you know, what are you passionate about? That can tell an awful lot about the kind of person that you are and whether, you know, you're going to potentially be a good fit for us or not. So yeah, it does really stand to people.
Just a couple of more questions. In all of your professional stories, you talked about how, you know, you have to work very hard and sometimes extra hours and all of that. So Angela, how important would you say work ethic is, especially for a webinar like this where people might be interested in going into businesses, building businesses or owning businesses? So how important is work ethic?
Yeah, it's a massive part of it. Like, you're not doing it to be an instant millionaire, you know, or you're not doing it to for any other reason. You have to be prepared to put the work in, and you're only going to be prepared to put the work in if you're really passionate about it. You know, so do it for the right reasons. Don't do it because you think it's an easy way to make money. Do it because you actually care about it as well, and that kind of ties in with what Shona says as well. You know, do something that you at least, you might not feel yet that you're passionate about it, but at least that you have an interest in, because there are going to be lots and lots of times where you have to work extra hours, or you have to make sacrifices, you have to miss things that other people are going to, or you have to miss lots of things and work very unsociable hours. There'll be emergencies that arise and you'll be the only person that can fix it, no matter how well you plan things. And then sometimes just things aren't finished on time, and you have to be really willing to go that extra mile. And as Ruth was saying, you know, if you hate what you do, it's a misery. But if you love what you do, you don't mind as much. You know, that job has to be done, whether you're the owner or whether you're a manager. If you just need to make sure you do something that you can be passionate about and that you believe in.
Ruth, I'm just going to pick you up on something you said earlier on. So, you know, a lot of these students are concentrating on their education, but you talked about the tapestry of life earlier on, and I know you're very well travelled. So just what encouragement would you give to the young people about, you know, that there's all kinds of learning, and that your experience, your abilities are almost informed by other things except school and college as well? It's, you know, I'm sure you learned loads from travelling around.
Oh God, I did, yes. But I mean, I mean, to me, every day is a learning day. You know, like, you know, I like, they're probably looking there and saying, "Oh my God, you know, she's been around a while." Yeah, I have, but I'm still learning, and you know, and I think, you know, my experiences in traveling, you know, whether it be in Australia, South America, the States, Europe, you know, I embraced everything that I met along the way, and I always looked at it as if, you know, gosh, you know, that's interesting. I could probably do something with that at some stage. So, you know, and I think people need to be open to sort of learn, you know, sort of learning as you go, and that's a big part of life, really, isn't it? You know, because you know, education is so important, and it is. But I mean, working out in the real world, to me, is a huge education in itself, and I'd say the other mentors will agree with me there. You know, and you know, get as many opportunities, you know, like, I mean, we've all worked at different jobs, you know, like, I mean, when I went back to London and I was nursing, I got an opportunity to work with the catering company, and we used to, it was in the BAFTA studios, And we used to go on catering events, you know, to St. James's Palace. Met loads of fantastic and famous people in you know, in my work experience, and you know, and to me, you know, I learned something along the way, and you will too, you know. You know, there's a great world out there. I know it's been pretty shite for the last 18 months, but I mean, you know, we're coming to the end of it, and you know, and I think, you know, there is a very bright future ahead for us all, hopefully, you know.
Thanks a million to our panel for answering so many questions. I'm going to hand you back over to Jim now, and he's going to tell you about more business webinars that are coming up. Thanks a million. Sorry, Jim, you're on mute there.
Apologies. Okay, your final job of the night is a poll which is being launched right now. Just 3 short questions, so please take your time to complete it. On behalf of Foróige, I just want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We hope it was beneficial and that you have gained some insight into a career in business. For those of you who would like to be involved in Foróige, or that would like to learn more about our programs and how they can benefit you, you will receive an email with all the information you need in the coming days. I want to sincerely thank our panelists who have so generously given their time and shared such valuable advice. Foróige is hosting more career webinars throughout the month of May, and you are welcome to attend as many as you wish. You can do so by registering through Eventbrite. Thanks again, everyone, and good night.